So this is an amazing pleasure to have here Roger. What's your surname, Roger? Because for me, you are still ethical skeptic.
Yes, Roger Cunningham,
Cunningham.
otherwise known as the ethical skeptic. Yes,
Right. Cunningham is like a Scottish name or something?
it is. In fact, my Y DNA, which is the paternal DNA, it is
Of course we do.
100% Scottish. Absolutely.
Ah, oh, wow. Okay. And we have Guito. Guito show a personal friend, an actor, singer, and all-round curious person who is investigating things on his own as well. So
Yes.
today we want to talk about something. The reason why I invited you to this conversation, and I'm very thankful for your acceptance, is that you have a theory that unfortunately my tiny brain cannot comprehend very well. And I would like you to try and explain it to the less brilliant of us. What does your theory mean? So first of all, I'm going to try to introduce or to summarize it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, okay? So, from
Absolutely.
what I understood, Earth has a sphere inside that has some liquid. So it's not completely fixed with the mantle of the Earth. It moves. And it's not moving exactly at the same speed. And at some point, it's going to disconnect and the Earth will tumble. Is that more or less what's going to happen? That you believe is going to happen?
Yes, that's pretty close. I avoid the term liquid because on
Okay.
the time
It's
scales
plastic.
that we're talking about, everything is essentially a solid. So let's say like old window panes in old buildings, that glass that was used was actually a liquid. But if you throw a chair at it, it's going to perform as a solid. Just
Aha.
because the time scale
Okay.
involved, a glass
Right.
pane will settle down and get fatter at the bottom over, say, 15, 20 years because it's displaying that liquid characteristic that it is part of its physical makeup, its chemical makeup. But if you throw a chair at it and across, about 5 seconds, there's no way it's going to respond as a liquid. The same principle applies to what's called our viscoelastic mantle. It is a three moment problem in itself, not the core, not the inner and outer core necessarily. That's a different set of moment physics, if you will. But in the mantle itself, that area from, oh goodness, remember 2,300 kilometers up to the surface, that that is a viscoelastic liquid. But on the time scales we're talking about, just like that, throwing that chair through a window, it's essentially a three body problem, solid.
Okay. Well, I
Yes.
watched the series. So let
Yeah.
let me see if I can make you um, pretend to be less sophisticated in your answer and just explain in the simplest terms possible. What do you predict? It's because, okay, from what I understood, you started this theory from what you found out about history and the flood, Noah's Ark, and all of that. So, if you could explain a little bit of the chronology of how you came to this theory, which is cataclysmic and very scary. So, please tell us how
Well,
it came about.
I actually didn't start with the history, although that
Uh,
is, one way I introduce the argument, so it's understandable to view it as
okay.
evolving that way in my mind. It really started when I was heading an exotic materials lab, and we developed I guess an analysis of hexagonal close pack iron, that showed that hexagonal close pack structures and titanium is naturally in a hexagonal close pack structure. That's a type of atomic structure of a metal that is like a lasagna, if you will, and
Mm,
it doesn't really stick to anything. And one of the challenges that we were addressing in that lab was the inability to surface harden titanium components in Navy and Air Force fighter jets. Those high performance direction vanes in the thrust segment of the engines of those jets were decaying so quickly that the Navy wanted us to develop a way to harden that titanium. And we found all kind
You
of
were working
problems with.
for the Navy, for the US Navy?
Yes, one of the sponsors, if you will, one of the board members of the company was representing the U.S. Navy, and I can't name the
Roger,
board
your
members, but
specialty is like, from what I understand, you are an engineer. Can you just tell us a little bit of, without many details, but just what would you say are your specialties, like the
my
scientific ones,
specialties,
not the guitar
my
playing?
specialties, yeah, aside from guitar playing, it
Yeah.
started out in missiles, nuclear weapons, missile technology, communications technology, and then moving from there, it went to the Middle East prior to Gulf War One, and from there, I was in operations. I was the holder of the nuclear weapons launch codes. I was a nuclear
Come
weapons
on,
officer.
wait, wait,
I
wait.
had,
You were the holder of the nuclear weapons code, launch code?
yes,
No.
yes. So to get in that
Why
program,
am
it's
I talking
called,
about geodesic?
well, to get in that program, it's called the PRP program, and it goes through your background extensively, puts you through tests of reliability. Obviously, that's in the name of the program, before you can become approved to be a holder of the nuclear launch codes. So I've had my background investigated thoroughly by the Navy, and they put their trust in me to perform those duties. I moved from there, and that was deployed in the Middle East. I moved from there because of things, attention that I got in various events in the Middle East. I moved from there to the Office of Naval Intelligence in Washington, D.C., or more accurately, Suitland, Maryland. So my second career there, if you will, was intelligence in special access programs, black projects, those
Okay.
compartmented accesses in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so given that you just mentioned that, and I wanted to leave this to the end, how can I be sure you are still not working for intelligence? I mean, I am one of the people who believes there is no such thing as an ex-agent or an ex asset. So how can I know that you are not maybe part of the doomsday scenario project and trying to scare us, perhaps with some purpose that eludes me at the moment. But do you understand my question? Because even in the Epstein files, we see that they talk about a cataclysmic scenario in which the Earth would lose much of its population, and that the remaining population would have to be controlled because the resources would also be reduced.
Well, two answers to that. Number one, you can't know 100%
Right.
sure that I am.
Okay.
I mean, I can say that I'm not, but you can't know
Right.
100%
Right.
sure
That's what I said. Right. It's the
that
conundrum.
I'm
That's
not
what they would say.
not still an operative. Yes,
Right.
but all of the conclusions here that I've come up with are organic. There are things that I've run across through a multifaceted career. Leading the Exotic Metals Corporation was only one thing that I did, and it was
Exotic
because of,
metals. Okay.
yes, correct. That's correct. Exotic materials, exotic metals. In particular, we had a focus on titanium and what are called refractory and rare earth metals. They're on the left side of the periodic phase two or phase two transition metals inside the periodic table. They exhibit exotic properties, and that's the best way to sum it up. And there's a long horizon of discovery for mankind inside those metal groups. We were just beginning to scratch the surface on all that
Mhm.
technology. But it got me wondering about the nature of the exotic nature, if you will, of the Earth's core, both inner and outer core, and this hexagonal close pack iron structure, what is known as epsilon iron in the parlance. That epsilon iron doesn't perform like iron if you have it in the railroad, a railroad track or a knife or
Right.
some
More like
metal
molten iron.
implement. It's molten, but it's compressed it's 6,000 gigapascals, I believe. It's compressed so much that it doesn't perform as a liquid. It's somewhat akin to that window analogy that we used earlier. It's
Hmm.
compressed so far that it forces it into becoming a unified crystal lattice, if you will.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of New Agers expressed, the opinion that the Earth's core was a crystal. And that's
Ah.
not necessarily technically true. However, there are some elements of reality to that.
Mhm.
That the theory, ECDO theory, stipulates that the hexagonal close pack iron inside the core acts as a unified lattice, which I guess you could say it's somewhat analogous to a crystal, and that there are exotic properties that we don't understand and we haven't accurately measured just yet that in particular relate to the geomagnetic poles of the Earth or the geomagnetic field of the Earth.
Okay, ECBO, can you please
Yes, I have to even
explain?
look it up here and make sure I don't get it wrong. No, it's
Right.
exothermic, and I'll explain what each component of the title means. It's
Okay.
exothermic core mantle, and that's a dash in between core and mantle. So exothermic core mantle decoupling. So it is a
Okay.
decoupling of the core and the mantle.
It's like what happened
Then
to Gwyneth Paltrow and Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin.
yes, that's a decoupling.
That's the level of my knowledge of whatever you're talking
But
about. Okay.
and the core and mantle have been married together since the formation of the planet, so it's a serious decoupling. The thing is,
Right.
it in under ECDO theory, it happens over and over and over.
Every
Sometimes very
12,000
minor,
years?
12 to 6,000. It may be an interval on 6,000 years. There may be an interval on 12,000 or both, but the same thing might not occur to the same magnitude each time. We may have a period of 1,000,000 years where it becomes a very mild transition or doesn't happen at all. ECDO theory conjectures that it happened 12,000 years ago, commensurate with the Younger Dryas period, and 6,000 years ago, commensurate with the flood of Noah, Utnapishtim, Atrahasis. The flood that occurred 12,000 years ago, I believe, was called the Ogygian deluge. So
Mm.
there have been two floods in history. Herodotus noted that the Egyptian priests cited that the sun had moved from its standard rising and setting twice and actually involved two motions. So it had moved four times. And in fact, that's what ECDO theory postulated before we looked at history. Back to your original point, I actually didn't look at history or the pyramids or anything first. The first thing that I looked at was the performance of hexagonal close pack iron in its exothermic state. Hence the name of the theory that we cited here, called exothermic core mantle decoupling Janabakov oscillation theory. That's
Mhm.
ECDO. So, well, the
This
postulate was
precedes
that the
your
first
theory,
thing.
right? This
Go ahead,
precedes
Paula.
your
What was it?
this
Yes, this was my first thinking. Now, I had some skepticism about the pyramids back in the early 2000s, but just toyed around with the work methods involved in lifting all those stones. And I do have expertise in that, but it was casual. The only time I really started piecing together a serious theory was while and after I was leading the exotic materials lab, because of the exothermic nature of HCP or hexagonal close pack lattices. I began to get a growing suspicion that maybe our climate change was not necessarily just a result of carbon dioxide and methane in the atmosphere, man's activities principally, and certainly there's solid argument there, I believe, but maybe the heat could be coming from an exothermic release of that hexagonal close pack iron out of the outer core and into the mantle. So
from
that's
within
where
the
the
earth, then
idea,
the heat would come not
exactly.
even from the sun, but from the earth itself.
That's correct. Yes,
Wow.
from inside the earth
Uh,
itself. And most of the commentary is that, well, it would do that one time and then dissipate that heat, but that's not actually what's occurring. When that crystal lattice weakens that we talked about in the HCP core of the earth, and the geomagnetic moment of the earth weakens, then the outer material of the core begins to slough off into the mantle and release mind-boggling amounts of heat in that exothermic state. It switches, the iron switches from hexagonal close packed to what we're more familiar with, body-centered cubic or face-centered cubic iron. But in order to do that, it has to release tons, just
Mhm.
mind-boggling amounts of heat at the same time, hence the term exothermic.
I see. Okay. So let's just pretend we have 2 minutes for you to explain to people who
Okay.
don't know what exothermic means and mental or just for the simplest of us, what this theory what are the implications of this realization? I mean, you calculate that, see if I'm wrong, that until 2030, more or less, we will witness on Earth a type of flood, deluge, and the Earth, the parts of the Earth that are dirt, land, will become sea, and the sea will become land. Is it more or less correct?
Well, I'm not postulating yet that 2030 is the date.
Uh,
I do postulate that 12 and 6,000 year cycle. And yeah, we're right at the end of the 6,000 and 12,000 year cycle. So that's
wow.
unnerving. There's no doubt about
Okay.
it. But I'm refusing to postulate that we, or predict or prognosticate or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
I'm refusing to prognosticate a date for the next rotation for a variety of reasons. We still have a lot of research yet to go. My purpose in introducing the theory is not to scare everybody to death. It's really to introduce this discourse or introduce this postulate, this set of hypotheses into the scientific discourse so it can be recognized and researched. One of the
Right.
keys that I've found in ethical skepticism is if you don't have a description for something, there's no way you can research it. So
Right.
all you have to do to avoid researching something is refuse to allow it any kind of description. This is a principle
Right.
developed by Ludwig Wittgenstein. It's the
Uh-huh.
way he said that societies that our blindness stems from our language, our inability to describe scientific
Right.
principles. We did not have a description for ECDO theory or any of the elements of ECDO theory in the past. So how could we research it? My
Mhm.
purpose is to introduce it so that we can discipline the language and then research it. Once we get that research done, then other parties, probably besides me, that are much more skilled, talented, and
Mhm.
experienced than me, might begin to put together postulates as to when the next one might occur. But I think a solid anchor point is if we can attach the Ogygian deluge from 12,000 years ago and then the deluge of Noah and Napishtim and Atrahasis and all those characters,
Mhm.
Deucalion in the Greek tradition, Gongon in the Chinese tradition, and over 175 flood myths. If we can attach those to anchor
175
points, that's
documented
correct.
myths of Earth's
Globally,
flooding.
that's
Wow.
correct. Yeah. Yeah, most are fairly topical and weak. There was an
The
older
oldest
elder
one
who
is
built
from
a boat.
where? Is from when? The oldest one.
I don't know. I'll have to take a look at
Before
that. But
Gilgamesh, right?
I believe the Epic of Gilgamesh should be counted as the oldest story. It's
Uh,
somewhat counterintuitive because it's a very complete story. We found most of it, I think
yeah.
80 or
The
90% of it
similarities are
on several
uncanny.
stones. Oh yeah.
Even the bird getting
Yep.
the
The raven
leaf.
and the dove. You
Yeah.
release the raven because it flies very high. It has good stamina and it has sharp eyesight at a distance. So you release the raven first. If it doesn't come back, that means it spotted something it liked. If the raven comes back,
Right.
that means it didn't like what it saw. When you release the dove, however, the dove comes back home no matter what it finds. And that way, you as a boat captain in antiquity can take the dove's beak when it comes back, scrape the inside of its beak and spread it on papyrus. And with the color and texture, you can tell what the dove was eating. So the dove came back after having consumed olive matter and olive leaf. And so that way Noah knew that they were within one dove flight distance, if you will, from
Uh,
land at that point. The release of the two birds in that sequence was very rational. If
right.
you look at the seamanship around it, so it's
Right.
interesting that Napishtim cited that exact sequence in
Yeah.
his recount to Gilgamesh. That's correct.
But it's very curious how Brazil also had a lot of this myth inside Indians. Noveler made
Can you speak a little louder, Guito? It's not very clear.
how Brazil had also this myth in your Indians before Cabral, before Brazil was Brazil. A lot of Indians had this myth.
Native Brazilians had the similar myth. What is
Yes,
the
and this was surprise for me. This was surprise. Really,
very
really
interesting.
was.
What's the name of the tribe, Guito? Maybe
We
can
need
you
to
help?
check. Yeah, we need to check. And Nobular, I forget his name, Roger, but he's doing a exceptional work.
Craig Stone, yes.
Made in a map. Craig Stone, yeah, exactly. And he could, I don't know, more than 10 different trips and Indians who spoke about float here in Brazil, about this.
He made more than 10
this
trips to Brazil and he had identified the places where the...
Yeah, it's, first of all, I'm like a ducky, Roger. Like I swim, I fly, and I walk, but I don't do nothing well. But only a duck can stay in all the world. Like I have never seen a fish flying, and this is good because I'm agronomist engineer actually, so I'm a kind of a farmer, and I observe all the nature, and I'm very scientific, methodical. Let's say something like this. And first of all, when I read your research, it was so like complete, so skeptical and ethical that
skeptical and ethical.
Yeah, this guy write everything very. I don't know. Sorry for my English, but you are methodic. It's something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't see your name and who was you. You know, and just after that, I read that you was an engineer and you are like who you are. But after that, I start to see many things here in Brazil, and from many different disciplines. Everything are going to be like a goal. So in the archaeology, in the agriculture, when I see mountains here in Brazil and Indians, like one thing very interesting, I was fishing in the middle of Brazil, the middle. And Brazil, we have 3 rivers, bacia. How can I say it?
Right.
Rivers family. Let's
okay.
say it like this.
The rivers meet at this place.
Yes. So one of them is from the north. That is Amazon rivers and their affluents. And one other one is in the south of Brazil. And we have the highest land in the middle of Brazil. Okay, so one of our rivers goes up, and one of them, a half of them goes down. Okay, and the craziest thing is we have dolphins in the middle of Brazil, but only in the Amazon and the other one. So if you was something evolutive, we should have also dolphins in the South River also. But why we have only in some specific place, and not only dolphins? How can I say
manta ray.
Manta ray and dolphins and manta ray in
rivers,
water, in rivers, not in the sea. So of course the sea come to the middle of Brazil in a very in a land that is not high. How can I say? It's very I think it's 50 meters under sea only, and they have a lot of salt also.
They have a lot of
lakes.
what? Salt? Salt lakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like Pantanal. So this is for sure it's because the ocean has been there.
Yeah, what I've found in many geographic features is that we have salt flats or diatomaceous flats combined with salt remnants, if you will, from a body of water, yet there's no tributaries feeding into it and no sizable landscape above it that could have fed that salt and that
To
diatomaceous
explain the
earth
salt,
down
right?
into the basin. Yeah, it's how did it get there? The only way it could have got there is through transport, not through current runoff. And those are all over there in these formations that Randall Carlson has identified as that he calls chevrons, or geology calls chevrons. These chevrons are not only these diatomaceous sand and salt flats, but they've been displaced, they've been pushed into the shape of a chevron. So they bear all the hallmarks of an oceanic
What you
inundation, but we
mean?
refuse to look at that. Chevron,
Oh,
yeah, they're chevron
right.
shaped in that that
Mm-hmm.
comes from the ocean surging through a venturi or
Right.
a narrow channel,
Wow.
and it forms these chevrons. It's obvious to me, and it's all over the earth, but it's not just all over the earth. It's in concentric patterns, which just happen to have a center that is on each what is called a Euler axis of the ECDO theory, and that's the eye of the hurricane, if you will. That would be where the displacements were the least. It was the calmest or most survivable, as people ask frequently. The Euler or Euler axis points are where the chevrons don't exist, where the diversity in genetic life, both plant and animal, is most extensive. Those were the survival points. As you come out from these Euler axes, the devastation gets worse and worse and worse progressively, and you begin to see these chevrons and these diatomaceous salt flats in places where they couldn't have formed under
Right.
classic theory.
By the way, can we see from the compass needle today, can we see that the needle is changing direction?
Not well, we can for the magnetic compass needle. That actually
So
has
this is
occurred
already
when
verifiable just with the
the geomagnetic. But that's the magnetic axis. It moves on a regular basis all through the
okay.
6,000 year interval, if you will. So it's not necessary. It's what I call an indigo point indicator. If, for instance, when I studied navigation at Georgia Tech, the variation between the magnetic north and true north. The true north is where Polaris, where the rotational pole of the Earth points toward the star Polaris. That's the actual true north. The magnetic north was a little to the west of that, about 11 degrees west of that when I took navigation way, way back. It was the
Uh,
same as it was for Nathaniel Bowditch when he wrote American Practical Navigator prior to the American Revolution. So variation hadn't changed much. All of a sudden in 1973, that magnetic north got up and took off out of Canada and is now headed like a rocket into Russia. And that's concerning
towards
because
Greenland.
it crossed the top of Greenland, but now it's
Ah,
headed
yeah.
into Russia. Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
think interesting is that why Greenland means Greenland. I have one aunt that is Danish, and I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, that is because there was very green and a lot of farmers." And I said, "Okay, but so it
Is that
have not
correct,
a lot
Roger?
of years ago."
It's not very green from the limited amount I've seen of the island. That's an island, not a continent, right? Yeah, it's an island.
But it
It's
used to
not
be
as
green?
green as the name. I think that probably derived from someone's name more than likely,
Ah,
but I don't know that for sure.
okay. By the way, I got in touch with you a while back telling you a story that you may have seen yourself because you visited Egypt and I lived there for 2 years. And I remember when we visited, and at that time, even the Ministry of Tourism wasn't aware of that. We visited a whale skeleton 200 at the time, that's what they told me, and I can't be sure of that, but the place where we were was 200 kilometers on a straight line from the sea, and there was a perfect whale skeleton, like it's still in the right shape of the whale. And that for me was like, how the heck did this whale get up here? And
Yes, that is called the Fayum Depression or Basin, and it is
ah,
also called Lake Morris, if you will. That existed as far back as 3800 BCE and was depicted on what is called the Nubian egg. It's an egg that has been carbon dated to about 3800 to 4000 BCE, so 6000 years ago. And
ah,
it showed the Fayum Basin, but it was much larger at that time. Interestingly, the waters have receded since that 6,000 year ago period, but tactically so, and not a full ECDO recession by any means or inundation. So, but what's more curious there is the dating of those fossils. They aren't fossils in a traditional sense like we find in the American, mid or West, the American West, where they're 20, 30 million years old. These fossils are, and wait for it, 6,000 years old. In other words, those
ah,
sea creatures
wow,
perished about the time that the flood, the
wow.
inundation, I don't want to use flood, the inundation retracted. When we moved back to state one, those sea creatures were trapped and then perished at the bottom of the Fayum Depression. And so they're dating to about 6,400, six
So
thousand
yet
years
another
ago.
indication that we
Correct.
probably did have the flood, and the Bible was right
Yes,
there at
that's
least.
that's correct.
Are you?
Yeah, I hesitate to call it a flood because a flood is where the water rises up around you from external infeeds. What we have in ECDO theory is a cataclysmic inundation, if you will. The oceans
Inundation.
literally, they just jump out of their basins and fly across the land for anywhere from 1 to 3 days, depending on the
One,
type of
two,
rotation
three.
And,
involved. 1 to 3 days
So
is the
basically, when this
dynamic
starts,
period.
so when the thing starts, we will have like uh 3 days to get the
1 or 3
hell out
days. And,
of the.
and
No,
Roger, what is the best signal? What is the best signal that we can, okay, let's go to the mountains, let's go to the bunkers to the mountains.
Yeah, just
What is
so
the,
what's the sign that we would get to know that we should run to the mountains?
well, under ECDO theory as it stands right now, the most alarming, these would be indigo factors. Tau
What does that mean,
tau,
indigo?
if you
Sorry.
indigo is a Greek letter, and it implies uh, running under the undercurrent, or invisible or hard to detect. It was embodied in a book called The Butterfly Effect, and it's colloquially passed around as a butterfly flaps its wing in Hong Kong,
Right.
and that turns into a hurricane in the Atlantic. That's not really what I'm alluding to, but it's similar. These are early effects that begin to precipitate what I call a later thaw effect. And it's useful inside strategy and especially in markets, because when you enter a market, or if you're looking to adjust a market to block competition, or adjust your power inside that market, and I've had many clients that have done this, you begin with indigo indicators and you finish with tau actions that precipitate a tip-in point in the Malcolm Gladwell sense, the tip-in effect.
Mm-hmm.
The tip-in point is where what you've enacted through a series of indigo actions becomes inevitable. Nobody can stop it once the tau point has arrived, and that's how you develop a market strategy, so you conceal it from the
Sorry, when you
competitors
say
or
thaw, you mean thaw like melting of the
tau.
ice?
TAW, another Greek letter. So
Ah,
tau is
okay.
it. That's
Okay,
the
Roger,
so
tip-in point.
so you say we'll have 3 days. So just so I understand what's your skin in the game, are you already living in the mountains? Have you gotten your bunker on top of some high land?
high place.
I have spoken with multiple groups, and I don't have a particular option settled on yet.
Right, so
I
And
will say that.
you are still on sea level?
Yes. Well, I'm at, oh goodness, I don't know, 1,200 feet, I guess. So I'm well within the inundation envelope, if you will.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Roger, here in Brazil, maybe a, just a few people are talking about it, and but I'm sure that in the United States and uh, between the billionaires, they are still building bunkers, and right now we know that it's almost clear that is for some cataclysm thing and not for atomic bomb or something like that. Do you have billionaires that are looking for you, that are talking with you and getting
Good question.
answers?
Oh yeah, members of the royal family, government officials, multiple billionaires. Billionaires are not like popcorn, but they're getting fairly more common than they used to be.
Right.
So multiple agents, just like you're describing, Guido. Yeah.
I was
Okay.
having this
So
debate with
in the
Guito
United States,
because
it's sorry,
I
Paula.
was, no, Guito, we were talking the other day because he said this was also an indication that the billionaire class knows there will be a major inundation. And I said, well, not necessarily, because if you have $1 billion, you might as well build a freaking bunker. I mean, I would have probably properties at every level
Yeah,
imaginable and in
but this is
every
the
landscape possible.
yeah, but
So,
this is the second point that I wanna answer you, Roger. We know that in some case, like if we really have a cataclysm, the best thing that we can do is to shut up, because the dangerous thing that can other with his son Henry. And
Guito,
this is why,
you just a second, Guito. You just got stuck. The image froze, and we couldn't hear well. So you said the first thing you do
okay,
when you know there will be a cataclysm is to stay
okay,
shut, and then
okay, yeah, yeah. It's easier to survive if we stay shut. Uh, because the most dangerous thing, I think, is not the natural, but it's a man's. It's other man's hungry. And I think this why we have bunker. And thinking about this, Roger, what make you spoke? What make you spoke for all the word that this is gonna happen?
right.
Because
Why are you
I,
warning
I
us?
feel I feel the same of you. Like we could stay shut up and go to the mountain, say, okay, let's wake up after that, and it's gonna be easier. But first this answer, and then other one I ask you again.
Yeah. Well, we have a precedent if we consider the Atrahasis epic, which is called the Atrahasis. If we consider it history, and that's a loosely defined term, history, in that the gods refused to tell mankind or let them know that the cataclysm was coming. They said, you know what, we've only got time to save ourselves. Let's work on that. And it's too bad for mankind. We didn't discover this until too late. And so we would be in real trouble if we let mankind know this. So the Council of 50, which is otherwise known, I believe, as the Anunnaki in various mythologies, that Council of 50 in that Sumerian epic, they swore to each other that they would not disclose this fact to mankind. So if we take that as history, the precedent has existed before that most of mankind or all of mankind would not be told about this. If we look at it today, the most concerning thing to me is not necessarily the movement, the rapid movement of the geomagnetic North Pole. It's the rapid exothermic arrival of heat to the surface of the planet, and in particular, the abyssal oceans. And that's the deepest parts of the oceans, the 4,000 to 6,000, or let's say 3,000 to 6,000 meters of deepest ocean. That's very, very, very cold ocean. If that ocean heats rapidly across a year, then that's a problem. That means the heat is not coming from man. It's not coming from the sun. It's not coming from overturning currents, because it happens simultaneously across the entire globe.
Mm,
Overturning currents would not do that. Overturning currents would be highly asymmetric in systems
right.
engineering. And I am a systems engineer, and a systems engineer is who should, the entity, the intelligence expert that should evaluate these things is a systems engineer, not a geologist, not a physicist, not a historian. A systems engineer is who pieces all this together. So my
Hmm.
number one concern is if we get rapid, repeated pulses of heat being released from inside the earth, then that's the signal for me that we're shifting from an indigo type of happenstance into a taw related or tipping happenstance. That's what's occurring right now. And unfortunately, and you can see the pulses in the material that I've published. In one of the articles, I show that there's a pulse of heat every 7 to 8 years. It doesn't match the sun, and it certainly doesn't match the pace of carbon output on the part of mankind. It's heat coming from inside the earth. It's heating the abyssal oceans first, then the upper oceans, then the atmosphere. And that's the way it panned out in the 2023 most recent heat pulse. What those heat pulses tell me is that material is sloughing off of the core, the outer core, and is releasing heat as that hexagonal close pack iron switches to body-centered cubic and face-centered cubic. It's releasing that mind-boggling amount of heat. And so the entire planet heats up in a matter of 3 weeks. That can't happen through the atmosphere because we would all suffer, dramatically.
And this will kill the fish as well. I mean, marine life.
It'll be a sizable culling of the marine population. The good news is that it doesn't cull diversity as much as it culls numerics. And
okay.
I'm trying to think of the right word.
Right, more quantity than quality.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, just a little speculation then.
Yeah.
You probably heard of Terramar, the idea by sponsored by or defended by Ghislaine Maxwell, the pimp woman of Epstein, and she even presented that idea at the United Nations. And from what I gathered, it's a type of privatization, not necessarily privatization, but making the ocean a geographic entity that would probably be able to be appropriated or misappropriated by the powers that be. So, I mean, considering your theory and the upcoming possible cataclysm, what could be the reason for that project, the Terramar project? Would that be some type of insurance that they are already trying to prepare so that when the thing happens, we're going to have water world type of
yeah,
is it?
that's I think my temptation is to immediately ascribe it to be a plot, a conspiratorial mindset. I don't think it's unreasonable to add that on to the conjecture, but we can't prove it, certainly. If we look at survival points globally, and that does introduce survival points, if you positioned yourself with the right craft in the right ocean, you could end up with a survival formula, but you're going to have to be under the surface. The surface keel boat that was the ark in the Bible, those fanciful pictures of a keel boat. They've got the keel running down on the stern and across the bottom and then up the bow, and then all the animals are on the boat. That wouldn't last 1 hour. That wouldn't last 1 hour in this scenario. A keel boat has too many hogging, rolling, and shear moments to survive.
And what
even
about
1
a
hour in this
seastead like the ones that Peter Thiel used to talk about before? Remember when he invented this idea that he wanted to build a seastead, like a fixed platform, right? In the sea.
Yeah, a fixed platform is a roll of the dice because it depends on what the ocean displaces. My thought is that you should probably displace with the ocean because it's the hit that you take from the ocean that is the danger element. If you displace with the ocean, then you accelerate with about the acceleration of an airliner sitting in an airplane seat. So it's not a dramatic acceleration to you experientially. And then you decelerate at that same rate as well. So it's somewhat of a gentler ride. And as long as that ocean that you're in, that particular segment of ocean that you're in, doesn't happen to hit a mountain, then you're going to be okay. But you're going to have a craft that is under the surface of the water, not necessarily 400 feet down or 1,000 feet down, because you don't want to be too near the bottom. But you do need to be out of what is called the surface effects of the ocean, the sea state of the ocean. And we're looking at, these waves would be 400 to 800 feet. So you'd need to be a little bit under the surface in what would be
like a submarine,
lightly termed a submarine. That's correct. Yeah, that's probably the most survivable craft. And in fact, That's exactly what Utnapishtim survived in the Epic of Gilgamesh. It was a very smart design. It was circular, radial, had ballast in the bottom, was 4 levels, and was equal on all sides. It was what I call a ballast bucket submarine. In other words, it kept the bottom of its craft down at
Yeah,
all
I
times.
was thinking about to
It was
put a
not the
submarine
surface.
inside a bunker.
Yeah,
I was thinking about
a bunker would be the
to
second
put a
choice.
submarine inside a bunker.
Yeah, submarine in a bunker. If you don't have the resources to build a submarine, and what the Epic of Gilgamesh says is what Utnapishtim said: I'm going to build this gigantic boat. I'm going to tear down my castle of gopher wood, and I'm going to build this gigantic boat. What do I tell everybody, as to what I'm doing? It's going to be obvious. I'm putting it right on the shore of the ocean, and the attending god Enki said, tell everyone that you're taking a gigantic feast to celebrate a festival with Enki in Africa. And so that's what Utnapishtim told the population. So that deception obviously was part and parcel to the Epic of Gilgamesh story. But the second best place to survive is going to be somewhere above 2,500 feet, preferably more like 3,500 feet, and under the ground. And
3,500 feet, so it's like a kilometer
or higher. Yeah.
high?
Yes. Well, yes, that's right, a kilometer. And to place around you a fortification of stones that are well fitted together so that water cannot get in between the stones and force them apart, that's critical. So if you have a technology that allows you to take a large andesite or limestone stone and then meld it into the other stones around it so that the seam between them is paper thin or non-existent, that's the way to build a fortification wall at a high altitude. Inside that type of chamber, which exists at Sacsayhuaman, exists at
where? Sorry,
Sacsayhuaman in Peru. That's near the Incan capital, the Incan Empire. Gadang Padang in Indonesia. That's a construction of that nature. Those would be the second choice survival points. So it's curious that we see those two survival approaches, if you will, in our mythology and our monuments. We have the tale of Utnapishtim developing that submarine, and then we have the actual monuments themselves, which are built to fortify whoever built them against a rather severe cataclysm.
Sorry, the sound is coming from Guito. Is it around you, Guito?
Oh yeah, have some noise here.
Maybe mute if you're not speaking, just so that we can. Yeah, just if you're not speaking. If you're speaking, it's okay.
Yeah, but I wanna speak now. Roger, I also read your paper about the sky and the stone that you found it in Gorbatep. That
in Turkey,
in Turkey. That is made the halo between Jews and Christ, because if the cataclysm comes, it's not the Messiah who is
the Messiah.
The Messiah. They are rating the Messiah, but and they don't believe that Jesus was. But if the cataclysm that is coming, it's not the Messiah that are going to come in, and really make Jesus the last Messiah, and Jesus can be in somehow all the signals that they are looking for to be a Messiah, having Jesus. When you think about a long year, not a short year, but a long year, because the life won't survive, and for this it needs diversity, and only Christ, only Christ across all the world, and made different miscegenated, like Brazil and America are the example of this. We have right now the most different kind of people in the world that we have never been before. Like you can see, Japanese are so Japanese, Chinese are so Chinese, and in America and in all the world right now, only because of Christ, only because of Christians, we had an explosion of people. So the life won't survive. And for this, it needs to make many children to grow up, and only Christians did it. So I think you made a kind of elo. How can I say it, Paula?
You kind of linked many theories together,
link.
right? Like
Yes.
your theory kind of like aggregates all these myths and religion and the theory that we should
It
be
does.
I think you
reproducing.
link. Yes, I think you link it what the Jews was looking for, and it can prove that Christ made this diversity in all the world in
Christ
this
made
last.
it possible. You mean the diversity of human race so that we can survive as a species?
Yeah, I mean the Christians after Jesus, they send Jesus. Let's suppose, like I'm Protestant, I don't practice anymore. And after we talk about God, but something are building and everything to make the humans more diversity. And the Christ, Jesus Christ, made it easier when he went to all the land of the world and
I
miscegenate
see.
the people.
Okay, so
You
let me
know,
see if Guito, let me see if I understand what you're saying. That until then, the Jews being interbreeding, they were keeping a genetic line that was very delineated, well delineated, or fixed. But with Christ, Christ would have permitted that peoples intermix and intermarry or marry with each other, and that would have strengthened our survival.
yeah, Jesus Christ exploded the population of the world and also the diversity of this population.
I see.
And this was what the Jews was looking for in the Messiah. You know
This
that
was what the Jews were looking for.
in the
Are you
Messiah,
sure?
they have some. They have if you ask God, what are the signals that you are looking for in the Messiah? The Jews are looking for, and one of them, like almost all of them, Jesus Christ can be, but not because they are looking for like a man. And okay, if you are waiting a Messiah, it not will be Jesus Christ. But when now we know that we are not having a Messiah, we have been like more like Noah. It's gonna be a cataclysmic, and and that paper that you wrote about the lion, and I forget the name of the paper, but it's about the esoteric.
Esoteric, yeah.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
That one can make the link between Jews and Christians.
What's the
It
name of
really
this paper?
links.
I would like to read it.
It is called A Curious Ancient Astrological Confluence. I
Curious.
did it in
Okay.
about 4 years ago, and it's looking at a particular stela,
Mhm.
that was found on a monument called Nimrut Dağ in Turkey, or what is known as Anatolia, or also known as Anatolia means, quote, the East. So
Mm.
when the wise men said, behold, we saw his star in the east, they meant we saw his star while we were in Anatolia. That's what they meant. And
Ah,
so that this lion, this chiseling of a frieze or a stela
uh-huh.
into this stone
Stella is lapided.
depicts it depicts an anomalous star that these three wise men, and there were three wise men who actually stationed Nimrut Dağ during these days from about I believe it was about 64 BC to about 11 AD. Three wise men stationed that observation point, and they were assigned to look for a star, curiously, under the Persian, Macedonian, and one other tradition. But and there's
Oh,
argument on the
wow.
third tradition. So they were called magicians or magi. So they chiseled into this stone known as the Leo Regulus Stela at Nimrod Dog, an anomalous star that appeared in the crescent moon at that time, and that the timing of that star actually fits the chronology of the birth of Christ very, very well, down to the month, almost even half month of interval. So I did a research article on that. I had been researching that for a good 15 years, and it finally clicked all together. It really outlines, there are three, I guess, entities that we discuss here. One is, we mentioned it already, Messiah. That was in the Davidic tradition. That was a conquering hero and one of many who was to come and help free Israel from Rome. That was the Davidic Messiah. Then there's a second entity that's a broader concept across the Levant and into Europe and across Anatolia, and that was known as the Son of God. It was more of a Mithraic tradition in that God had a senior role as pater, or father, if you will, and then had a son or sons that executed his will on earth. So the Son of God was a second Messiah that was being foretold, or what is known as the Christ. And then finally, the tradition that predates really all of that was let's see what it was. It was a Yamnayan or Avestan tradition that was from 4700 BCE, and it was called the Sociant in their vernacular, but it was known and interpreted as the Son of Man. So the Son of Man was the third. So we have three entities that we're discussing: the Messiah, Mashiach. We have the
Uh-huh.
Son of God in the Greek
You
tradition,
forgot the Mahdi,
Christos,
huh? You forgot the Mahdi.
and then the Mahdi would be the Islamic, and then
Right,
finally the Son of Man is the third. Interestingly, Jesus did not refer to himself as the Son of God, and certainly
right.
not. Messiah was a colloquial term, so every once in a while he would fit in that. But he exclusively, and I believe it was 78 to 83 references he made of himself, he exclusively referred to him in the role of the Sociant, or the Son of Man, which is an Avestan tradition that predates all of Islam, Christianity, Sumer,
And what would
Babylonia,
that
the
mean, the
Indians.
Son of Man? I mean, aren't we all the Son of Man?
Son of Man means, it was one in the Avestan tradition that means roughly one who brings salvation. He's not merely a Messiah, which is an anointed leader. Messiah means anointed, but he's a cosmic actor, someone who comes in from off earth, from outside, and comes in to displace a kingdom that unjustly rules on a planet, if you will.
Oh,
It comes back with the resurrection of the dead, a final judgment, or a thing called the Frasha Kareti, the renovation of the world, and takes an errant planet, a wayward planet, or maybe one that's flipping over every once in a while, and
mm.
turns it into a habitable world that is free and becomes part of the broader galaxy or universe.
Roger, are you a religious person? I mean, do you believe in the things you were saying? I mean,
It's a mixed bag. Intellectually, I'm what is called an agnostic atheist. If it's not Wittgenstein, we mentioned Ludwig Wittgenstein earlier. If it's not defined in Wittgenstein terms, I can't believe in it because it doesn't really have a definition. So the terms that we toss around in religion don't have a lot of meaning. They make you feel good, but in terms of intellect, they don't actually have any definable components. I don't know whether I can believe in them or not. That's an agnostic atheism. It's a resignation until we get better definitions. However, with regard to spirituality, I have direct experience in many aspects of spirituality, and if you will, encountering dark entities and
oh,
understanding the hierarchy that's entailed there, and there is a reality to that. It's absolutely a pecking order between species and broader species that used to inhabit the earth, and they do exist. So you have to reconcile that reality with that intellect. So spiritually, I believe in the role of a sociant or son of man, absolutely, as a
Okay,
rescuing a redeemer for the planet, absolutely. Yeah.
can you tell us about your experience with these dark energies? And I would like to know why you call them dark. Is it like as in dark matter, as in something invisible, or morally
I don't
disreputable?
want to go into the details, but they are definitely they're one trick pony. They're very habitual. They do not have free will in the sense that we have. They are subsets of this universe. They are enslaved to their addiction, and that addiction is to dark energy that we exude. They love to suck energy off of us, but that's the only way they exist. That's the only way they survive, is through the grace of the energy that comes through us, and that circumstance can't sustain forever. It has to end at some point.
So you believe that these entities inhabit the same world as us, but maybe on another dimension, like they are physically here, but imperceptible to us or to
That's correct.
most of us?
They're physically with us, but they reside in some other medium or dimension, depending on the term you use. I don't have a Wittgenstein definition again of those terms, but they exist coincident with us. They hate us with a passion. And if we
Oh,
were
wow.
destined for bad, if we were destined to bad things, they wouldn't give a flip about us. But it's our privilege that we've been granted as humans that causes them to hate us as siblings, if you will, sibling rivalry, if you will. And it's clear in the experiences I've had, these entities hate us with a passion, but they are extremely terrified of an individual who knows and understands the grace that is offered humankind. Unfairly, probably, because we don't deserve it, but we are given grace and power that these beings are terrified of. And
Okay, two
so,
questions. These beings would have been made by the same God that made us.
well, indirectly, yes, but in the roles we're playing out right now, that's somewhat moot. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the ultimate ontology, if you will, the nature of their being. I do know that they are enslaved to their addiction. They can't rebel from it. They have to serve their master, which is the hierarchy, and they hate us with a passion. Those things are givens, and they know that they're about to be displaced from the planet. They're keenly aware of that.
Oh,
Almost, that's one of our indigo indicators, is the panic on the part of these dark forces and those who serve them on the earth.
and their main difference from us would be that they don't have free will. Is that what you just said?
They don't have free will. I don't know if they can manifest in bodies. I suspect they can, but I don't know the answer to that. All I do know is that they're caught here, they're embargoed here, they're trapped here on Earth with us, and they are destined for they're headed to a destination they don't want to go to, and that's coming either sooner or later. But I think it's sooner. That's one of those indigo indicators.
Wow, I would have never guessed you for someone who believes in something like that. I'm surprised. Do you write about this? Have you
I
written?
do. I allude to it across maybe 15 to 20 articles at the Ethical Skeptic, but I'll only reveal a piece of it in each
Hmm.
article. So if you read one article, you won't pick up on it. But if you read 15 or 20 articles, then you'll pick up the cosmology that I'm relating, and it does pertain to this. Yes.
It's kind of reminding me a little of the Scientology cosmology, a bit.
Ah,
The apprehension. I'm sorry, but you know
got
the
you.
story about they were in a volcano kind of planet, and then they were extracted and taken to Earth. I mean, but these are the good people, and according to Hubbard, it's like these beings are inhabiting our bodies, and they want to go back to their original planet or something like that.
I've never studied Scientology. I don't know much about it, so I can't say yes or no
Really
on
out
that.
there.
This is
I'm going to
more
tell you
of
something about
my own
Scientology that
investigation.
I'm going to tell you something that is going to surprise you probably because it
Okay.
shocked me. I was researching bioweapons and chemical weapons, and funny enough, so I was reading the book by what's the name of that left-wingish journalist, British, who used to, okay, he is the uncle of Olivia Wilde. Do you know? He's very famous and
Oh
very
goodness.
respected. I think
I
it was his
it's I
book.
don't think
But
it's Richard Dawkins.
no, no, no. He's just a
Doc,
journalist, just a journalist.
oh, he's
But
just a journalist. Okay.
he's a
Okay.
journalist, and he wrote about chemical weapons and bioweapons. And at the beginning of his book, he thanks explicitly Scientology for having what he says is one of the biggest archives of chemical and biological weapons in the world.
Wow.
So, like, yeah, I was, whoa. So apparently, Scientology presents itself as I mean, as an enemy to the proliferation of these weapons, for which apparently you've already worked.
Yeah,
So,
and
but
you know, when I look at, oh, go ahead, Guido, go ahead.
no, I would like to know
uh,
if these
right,
weapons are made by the dark forces you just mentioned. I mean, or is it the
Well,
good part of pop?
after being a custodian of nuclear warheads and holder of the nuclear codes, I began to get the suspicion that these weapons are not for a conflict between China, Russia, and the US.
Wow.
They just, I don't think they are. I think they're a failsafe. I think that whatever it is so terrified of this intervention, and this is speculation. This is not something I've derived from an epistemology, although part of it is a derivation. It's an inference from epistemology, but it's speculation for the most part. I think that our chemical, our biological, radiological, our nuclear weapons, that whole genre of exotic weapons is not for a conflict between Russia and the United States or China and the United States. It's a fail-safe option. The reach of these missiles is global and then some, and able to destroy us 15 times over. The purpose of those weapons, I think, is a statement on behalf of these dark forces saying, if you intervene to remove us, we're at our wits' end. We're at the end of our rope, the bitter end, as they call it in the Navy. We're at the bitter end of our rope, and we're willing to fight to the death. And if you intervene, we'll destroy these humans that you consider so precious and so valuable over us. And we'll destroy every single one of them if you try and intervene. And that's what I think is possibly the use of these nuclear weapons, is a deterrent for outside the planet intervention.
Sorry, but I don't know if I understood. So it would be a deterrent against not a human race, but like a foreign invasion, let's say an alien invasion.
If the Seshiant, or the Son of Man, came in the sky with a rather large military force and intervened on the behalf of mankind, which is
Ah,
basically, that's what he says in the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer is a prayer for the overthrow of the kingdom that rules this earth. We just don't get to see it that way. They interpreted the language in a watered down format or version. If that event happens, I'm contending that it's possible that our nuclear and exotic weapons are a failsafe for that. Not that they can win the war against these entities, they can't. They don't have the ability, but that they would destroy us. In other words, they're holding mankind hostage to protect themselves. They would destroy us before they would allow themselves
I
to be placed
see.
off the planet. So hence the reason why there's this incredible interest between anomalous craft and our nuclear weapons storage bunkers and launch silos. Hundreds of incidents where UFOs, UAP have come and tampered with, shut down, and put into alert Delta launch status, alert launch status, our weapons, and then scaled them back down just to test and make sure they have control of those weapons themselves. That is not just them figuring out what we're doing. That's not a test to figure out what are the humans up to. That is a test of a control system that they already have in place. That was an op test. It was not research.
Mhm.
So, or those incidents, just like that family group of close encounter, third kind, I guess, or second kind
Yeah.
close encounter instances, those are op tests. They're characteristic op tests. That's not research. They're testing a system they have control of.
So you believe we're
But
going to be visited by aliens? I
I
don't.
think it's a possibility, but I don't want to call it a belief. The B word just gets everybody polarized, and it
Right.
cultivates ignorance. It is part inference from an epistemology and is part speculation, but it is strong suspicion, if you will.
Okay. Sorry, Guito, you can speak. Sorry.
yeah, uh, two things. First of all, the humans have 400,000 years in this earth. So we survived in all of this 6,000 years cataclysm. I don't know, maybe more than 50 or maybe more than 100 cataclysms we survived. Okay. So I think we can survive again. And
Yeah,
not only the who have submarines and bunkers, but maybe if you have a storm and a good house inside, uh, uh, like a bunker, and you have food, and you have uh, speciality, like if you are a hunter, a good hunter, and you can survive in the ice and with fire, uh, we can survive again. This is the first thing. And the second thing is agronomist and farmer. I believe that the green, the vegetables have a lot of power because how much we get more technology, we don't need to walk anymore. We can talk. I am talking with you the other side of the world using energy. And trees have more than we have trees that have more than 5,000 years alive. We have we have trees that use fungi to send energy, and between water they can send signals. And
Yeah.
right now we know that they can be connected and they can talk each other. And trees, like as we can see, this carbon dioxide is getting bigger and the earth are getting more green. So I believe it has some life in other planets. It's easier to be a plant, not a human. And I really believe that plants can talk and can receive information. They can uh, they do algorithmic. They can process this information, and they can send back this
that's
information.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and I think if we are talking right now about God, I think the plants are closer
Closer to God
uh,
than us.
to God than us,
Yeah,
and they know uh, if you had a war against the plants, they will win. We will be hungry and we'll stop our food,
that's true.
and after 1 year, some seeds will grow up again. And
That's true.
yeah, and so I I I, I believe in that. If we really have aliens, they are green.
They may well be.
Ah, I see
That's
what you mean.
and
excellent.
and and also you wrote another article about the code of the DNA and a
Yeah,
specific space that are not made for anyone. It's a space that is open for something that we believe, something that we want. I really believe that God is big, the big good intention, the big good intention. And when one person like you, Roger, uh, think different and put it right now, it's not only one, but it's you and me and Paula, and we know right now that have another. You made a seed of conhecimento. How can I say?
A seed of you planted the seed of knowledge.
oh,
Yes,
okay.
Is that
you planted something that right now it's going to be easier for the humans to survive because you made something
Oh, wow.
that that uh, that Jesus did, and this is the good intention.
See how I
You
had to
could
invite him over, Roger, for this interview? The guy is calling you the Messiah almost.
No,
no,
no.
no, no.
Son
It's
of
not. It's
man,
not.
son of
No,
man.
no, no. It's not. It's not the Messiah because I don't believe we have one Messiah.
Yeah.
I believe in good intention. You could be shut up. You could be shut. It's going to be better for you, for sure. If you stay quiet, it's easier for you to survive if you stay quiet. But why you decide to spoke for everybody? I think the first thing it's not good to survive alone. I had this dream a lot of times when I was young that all the earth died and only me stayed, and no one wanna be like that, and the life won't survive. And evolution is not to get to make something better. Evolution is to end the who are not adapted. And the only thing that we need is diversity and scale, diversity and volume, so quantity and
Right.
diversity, and the life will survive.
Yeah. Well, and interdependencies, those are critical. The tree of life, if you will. But certainly, well said. Yes. But no, I'm not a messiah.
But
Yeah,
and by the way, is population really declining? Because I've been seeing
In
population
I
terms
think
of,
growth.
you're
I
asking,
really did.
go ahead.
So, yeah, I really think that the population are going down, and they want to do it because it's easier to survive if you kill the most of the people, and this is why I think we have bad guys in the world that really want to take down the population to make easier for them to survive. Because when you are fighting for survive, money doesn't matter. The what matter is your ability to hunt, you know. And poor men have more ability to hunt than people like Bill Gates, you know. And it's explained. The cataclysm explain why. Because the rich people never wanted to end the people. You need population to make you richer. Always was like that. But right now, no. Right now, they wanna kill the people. And why?
You
Because it's
believe that,
easier to say.
Roger? You believe that there is a desire by the elites to reduce population and get rid of the ex excess humans?
Well, if we're going to have an event, and that's an if, still no predictions there, certainly. If we're going to have an event, I would rather it be impacting, say, 3 billion people than 20 billion people, certainly, just because of the magnitude of suffering involved. But to reducing it down to, say what the Georgia Guidestones said was 500 million people. I don't
Yeah.
know that that's achievable. I don't think we have the control yet to reduce the population down to that level. Is there a desire? There's a variety of desires. Yes. Is there a desire to limit the population? Absolutely. Cull the population? Probably. To what level? I don't know. And to what level fits a cataclysm? We do know that the Y-DNA culling, which is the male chromosome, the male chromosome culling was a culling of 19 out of every 20 individuals. And that's a
Sorry,
good
I don't
benchmark
understand
for
that.
the
How did this culling happen?
culling happened, I conjecture, ECDO theory conjectures, it happened about 4,800 to 4,400 BCE, about the time of the flood of Utnapishtim.
But when you say
So
culling, you mean on purpose then, culling, the
it would be
matança.
the flood. Well, it would be natural culling in the context of a natural ECDO rotation. but it's a culling of 19 of every 20 individuals by reduction in the diversity or the horizontal size, if you will,
Right.
of the human race. I think it was also a culling of the vertical size of the numbers of people of
Right.
19 of 20 as well. It's somewhat proportional between, the diversity reduction as well as the reduction in numbers of people at that time.
So if I'm getting right, Roger, you kind of subscribe to that population reduction described or willed in the Georgia Stones?
Yes, I think there's a, if you will, a preparatory phase that they see as part of their victory over the outsiders.
And you
Probably
agree
this
with that? I
isn't
mean, you agree that that should be a means, I mean, that should be part of the survival plan?
Oh no, I don't agree. I don't know what the answer is because I don't know what the future entails. I really do think we should limit our population to 12 billion and go no further than that. And that should be a proactive action on part of every nation, every government, every society. That we should limit the size of humanity because all we
Why?
do is increase the suffering. Well, the suffering quotient, as I've done a famine strategy for the Republic of India, a medical strategy for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I've done resource and education and taxation strategies for various West African and Gold Coast nations. The amount of suffering that exists on the planet is mind again, like the heat. It's mind-boggling. Most people on this planet, the vast majority, suffer through their entire lives, unjustifiably so. So
But I
much to
mean,
the point that
that's
it's
the very discourse that I identify in the World Economic Forum and
yeah,
subscribed by Jane Goodall, subscribed by Sadhguru, and
yeah.
now by Roger Cunningham.
Yes, that's correct. But I'm definitely not on
Really?
the side of the WEF. The
But you agree with
you know
that?
the
Wow.
I
Another
I agree with
shocking
that.
news.
Yeah, we have too many people and too much suffering. And it's not that we could sustain, we've got 8 billion right now, roughly. We can sustain those 8 billion by delivering food to them, certainly, but that's not life. That's not living. If two-thirds of those people are just, under abject suffering from infection, injury, lack of optimal health, just continually suffering, and then they turn that suffering into anger and violence upon their fellow man, that's not living. That's not
My God,
population. That's not
you sound like the
civilization.
debate between Jeffrey Epstein and Joshua Barr.
Oh, good. All right. But again, those won't solve this larger ontology, and that larger ontology is a conflict between two forces that have fought here for quite a while, and one force is lost, and they can you can call them fallen angels, you can call them the Anunnaki, you can call them the Apkula or the teachers, whatever you want to call them. They're at their bitter end, and we have to resolve that. Otherwise, mankind will never get out of this suffering scenario, regardless of whether we're 12 billion or 500 million.
And that selection, so just let me, indulge me in this line of thinking. Considering that there are too many people suffering, the sufferers would be the first to be eliminated because then you would eliminate suffering. Is that correct?
Depending on how the reduction is undertaken. If it's a reduction in the reproduction rate, like China undertook over the last 50 years, successfully so, then
Okay.
not necessarily. So yeah, if we can reduce the birth rate to where it's a sustainable level and not through injecting people with hormones or vaccines that
I
destroy
was
their
just going to
immune
ask.
systems,
Okay.
that's just causing more suffering, even though the numbers are headed in the right direction. It's the thing I call fantasy vectus. It means the numbers are going where we want, so our actions must be ethical. That's not the case at all. You
Right.
first have to undertake the ethical actions, and then hopefully the numbers are at least a derivative of what you want. They don't themselves indicate that things are good.
Okay, so basically, let's say a vaccine that sterilizes women in Africa would be a good measure.
Not necessarily. I think that practices would be the first order of business to reduce the population rate, and maybe it's done economically. I mean, it's to the point where we can't just dump 15 kids on the earth and say, here they are, support them now.
Hmm.
All that does is cause suffering in 45 people. So
Hmm.
in order to carry those 15, so we as
Hmm.
individuals have a responsibility to as stewards over our reproductive destiny. And that fits all the rights, the human rights voices that are spoken over the last century. That responsibility that comes along with those rights means that I have to participate. My reproductive history has to participate with mankind, not run in opposition to it.
I see. Wow.
I,
Okay.
I, ha- I have seen one woman from China that are right now living in the United States, and she said that the population of China today is not more than 500 million. And 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 then I start to calculate if China had 700 millions in 1970, and in 1979 it started to make a program that only the woman can have only one child per woman, and stayed
79?
like that in 1979, and stayed for 35 years with a woman having only one child per woman. And let's consider that all human, all woman had one child. It's impossible this population to grow from there to today. It's
Ah, really?
impossible.
Did you make this calculation? I mean, do you have this on
Yeah,
a...
for sure, for sure. I use it grok. As a farmer of cattle, I can
Yeah.
prove you that if you have a farmer with a thousand cattle, and a perfect scenario, you have 70% of kids. I have men and I have woman, but what matter is woman. What matter is woman. Only
Hmm.
woman can have other babies, and it's impossible China has more than 1 billion. It's impossible.
Hmm.
Only if that program was false.
Ah, I see.
Only if that program was false. But it's
Yeah,
impossible. And
there are arguments along those lines. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And I think to myself here in Brazil, how can I measure if the population of Brazil are growing up and growing? Because we are learning in the school and everywhere that our population are growing up every day, but they lie in all the numbers, as we know. And I said, okay, how can I see it? And I went to the rice imports and rice inside consumers.
Sorry, I
The
can't
rice,
I can't hear what you said. Can you speak closer
uh,
to the... You went today
everybody,
what?
everybody eat rice.
Ah,
Okay, rice is the basic
right.
food of
Staple
everyone.
food.
Like
Yeah.
meat, it's something expensive that you only buy if you had money. But rice is the basic thing that all humans eat the same in in all their life. Like I'm sure that when you was 10 years old, you are eating almost the same numbers of rice, the same quantity of rice until today. So I went to the Brazil inside consuming number of rice, and it's getting looser. It's going
Ah, it's
down.
getting lower. It's getting lower, the
It's
Oh,
production
getting
of
lower.
rice.
yeah.
It's getting lower. Brazil is consuming in the last 10 years. We are consuming lower rice per year.
Right, but
So
maybe we are consuming more
it
wheat, we are consuming more pasta, or
everything can happen. It's statistic, but rice is the thing that
an
uh,
indicator.
it's a strong indicator that the population are going down. Because of
Mm.
course we can the propaganda come and say, oh, don't eat rice anymore. No, rice is the last thing that you will put in your dietary. It's rice, and it's getting lower. And I think the population are getting lower in Occident, in the West, especially. and also in China because I lived with a Chinese guy in Denmark when I was 18 years old. I lived there and I could talk with him by myself. And he told me that that program was one of the most strongest program that China made. That like it
China
was the
policy.
law. It was there. You could be on the prison if you had two kids.
Mhm.
I believe that it happened. I believe in that program. So it's impossible if really work it that program. It's impossible for China have more than 1 billion
Okay, and
per
why
year.
would they be lying, Guito and Roger? If that is true and the numbers are overstated, why? What would the purpose be of that lie?
Well,
Uh,
one thing is clear, and I did the 2007 through 2010 value chain strategy for the People's Republic of China for Wang Qishan at the time, who was the economic vice premier. One thing
Value
is
what?
clear.
Sorry, Roger. Value?
A value chain strategy for the fourth Sino-U.S. Economic Summit. I led that strategy between. It was a tripartite. It was out of London, so UK entities, Chinese entities, and US entities that participated and backed the strategy, and then I led the strategy. One thing that became clear there was anything that would embarrass the party, the Chinese Communist Party, is not going to be known.
Right.
So there are plenty of secrets hiding underneath that cover, if you will. I don't know if necessarily a 500 million population is one of those secrets, but I will say this: during the famine study and strategy for the Republic of India, it appeared to me that the Republic of India population was sizably larger than the census, World
Oh,
Economic Forum census estimates gave them credit, or even the CIA fact book at that time gave credit. I think they were estimating 1.15 billion. My estimates on food consumption were closer to 1.4 billion, which would place them slightly larger than China, even under the conventional context that we outline right now in census figures.
officially China is how many today?
I think officially, I don't know. I think it's
Especially to
1.2 billion.
1.5, 1.4
1.5
billion
is it? Okay. Yeah,
around
yeah,
it.
probably I had that a little off. But I think there's an argument that India is larger in terms of population now than China is in reality. Yeah. So there may
And
be some blanket covering some party mistakes.
And Roger, do you believe that, considering like Guito has a knowledge that it's very interesting and it was very useful during the pandemic because being an agricultural engineer and able to and cognizant of how to breed animals and large populations of
Yeah,
cattle.
actually, I was talking with a chicken farm and pigs farmer right like last week, and I asked him if I stop to shot your thousands of pigs with vaccines right now, what's gonna happen? And he told me, oh, maybe 90 or 80% will die, or maybe all of them will die. And I asked him, okay, so today, if you wanna make a pig farm with thousands of pigs, you need to vax all of them. And he said yes, with more than 50 kinds of vax. And so it's
Because
controlled. It's
because
controlled. Uh,
Okay, so I was just going to say Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, is not a doctor or a medical doctor. He's a veterinarian, and I do
and they made,
believe that there
yes,
was
they
a
made
type of
well.
right. Okay, and they did well in the culling. I mean, my question to you, Roger, is: do you believe that there was already a mass culling during the pandemic through the vaccines?
Well, starting in 2017, we lost, or China lost 80% of its swine herds. 60% of its chicken herds, and significant losses in ferrets and horses and other animal stocks. That was not widely advertised. Those viruses came out at the same time, I conjecture, that COVID-19, the Omicron version, the less virulent version, was also released. It began in January 2017 with the opening of the new research lab that the Obama administration authorized and funded. They commenced funding. I believe it was
Just a second.
October.
Omicron would have to be, I don't understand, because Omicron is like from 2020. I don't get
Correct.
it.
But Omicron, when it appeared day one, already had 7 years of diversity in its genetic structure. In other words,
Okay.
the varieties of Omicron had already drifted genetically 7 years. The first day we discovered them. So it was not a novel virus. It was impossible for it to be a novel virus. BA1 and BA2 were 5 years apart in terms of genetic mutation. And the mutation rate of COVID is well defined. All the COVID species mutated at the exact same rate, and I have it published at my site.
So it's not
If you
correct
take
to
that
say that
mutation rate,
Omicron derived from the first version of COVID?
correct.
All right.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. In fact, if
Wow.
you take a look at the furin cleavage site and know that that can evolve, and it can't
Right.
also unevolve either, that means that both viruses had to be released because one could not evolve into the other.
I see.
Omicron could not
Oh,
evolve
wow.
into Wuhan, and Wuhan could not evolve into Omicron. The only option left is that they were both released at the same time. And they also, that
And
same
the
time,
furin cleavage?
just happened to be when the horse virus, the chicken virus, the pig virus, this entire slew of viruses all came out in January 2017 when that Obama-funded facility and Barrack-funded facility came online in China. What China does and what the Communist Party does is when we install a corporation there or let's say a military cooperative project or a set of games or any activity, what the Chinese Party does is they shadow that operation. They may even replicate it themselves. In fact, they replicated my study and they agreed with my study, but they did the exact same initiative. And what they do is they mimic each step and each rational inference that you draw, each technique and methodology that you use. They replicate that, which is a smart tactic. And then they figure out, is that sound? Could it be improved or is it completely flawed? In the case of the strategy that I developed, they supported it. They felt it was sound and supported the answer. In this case, I think they did the same thing. The PLA created a shadow lab of the BSL-3 facility that housed these viruses in January 2017, but they did not have respect for the viruses. They operated on a BSL-2 standard, which are biosafety levels. And that BSL-2 standard allowed the shadow lab to leak the virus out. Once they discovered in 2017 and 18 that they had leaked a whole series of viruses from that illegitimate lab, they had to devise, and once they discovered in 2018 in Wuhan that people were dying in June and July of 2018 in droves from a virus, a respiratory virus, they
Right.
had to concoct a cover story. And like we
But just
said, the party covers its mistakes, and
but the
that's
way
what
you were
happened.
talking, you are ascribing no intentionality to it. It's like you're calling it an
Well,
accident. Did I get it right?
they were intentional in their replication of the U.S. lab. They were shadowing us, monitoring us, but they disrespected the danger of a virus. It was like a kid with a gun, and they ended up shooting their parents by accident. So it was accidental, but it was done through the volition of this shadow lab, the PLA shadow lab.
Okay.
That
And how?
fits the patterning.
Sorry, guys. I need to go right now.
Oh,
Roger, it was a pleasure for me to talk with you, man. Sir, sorry for my English. I
No,
learned it
no.
on the streets. And Paula, we will stay with you to continue this talk. And okay, I needed many days to talk everything that I want with you, but we have time.
Yeah. Thanks,
and he's
Kadev.
Thank you,
shooting.
Paula.
Thanks for the
Yes,
feedback and the followership. Yes.
yeah.
Thank you, Guito. Thank you for being here and helping us think aloud. Oh, you're muted. Bye. Roger, I don't want to take much of your time, but because you just said that about the BSL, I mean, in China and the Shadow Lab, you see no role in from DARPA in this story?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I
You
understood
see
what you
no
said.
participation because when I analyze the origin of the pandemic, clearly to me, it's a binational, at least a binational project. And when DARPA offered money for that, and I think the furin cleavage was even like included in like
It was,
basically. So,
yeah.
I mean, am I wrong in assuming that you were putting all the blame on China and the United States is cool beans?
Yes. So, well, it was a two-actor mistake. The U.S. created the virus. The U.S. shipped the virus under this fake morality play, this fake virtue play. We're going to put a moratorium on research of gain and function
Right.
viruses. Oh, but we're going to secretly research them overseas. That was the mistake. This fake virtue ended up hurting everyone on the part of the Obama administration. But the second part of the mistake was that the party, the Chinese Communist Party, did what they always do. They absconded with the technology. They took samples of the viruses and they started doing their own lab. But they thought, it's no big deal. Just wear some masks and some gloves. We'll be fine. And they weren't fine. They ended up killing, two-thirds of their pig stock, more than half of their chicken stocks, all at the same time that this virus came out. That's no coincidence. I think they accidentally released the Omicron and the Wuhan versions at the same time.
Accidentally.
Omicron Omicron showed up first because it's more, I guess, quick to the punch, if you will, in terms of global circulation. And then Wuhan followed shortly thereafter. However, the reason the Asia Pacific region did not get infected or hit hard with Wuhan is because they had already had Omicron. They already had a natural immunity to
Immunity.
Wuhan when it arrived. And then we had no immunity to Wuhan when it arrived. We had a significant mortality impact. And they pointed the finger at us and said, you just don't know how to handle pandemics. That was the most abject baloney that's ever been stated by an entity of mankind. They had prior immunity from Omicron, and I think they knew that at the time. But the party does not offer up anything that will embarrass them.
So basically, you ascribing no volition to either the United States nor China in that mistake. Is that
Well,
correct?
I would ascribe fault.
Ta,
Volition
okay.
is a more opaque bucket to look into.
Right. It could be part of the sterilization plan to alleviate suffering of
Could have
future
been
generations.
a dress rehearsal. Could have been, yes.
Anything, well, if you don't mind, make it like a public commitment to talk to me one day about your experience holding the nuclear secret code and your experience in the Middle East. I don't know if you know, but I wrote a little short book on espionage because I was very curious about the subject, and I interviewed Hassan Nasrallah and Shabtai Shavit, and I don't have much respect for secret services. I think by nature they are already intricately connected to crime because that's the nature of their work. When you're secret, you have no oversight, you have no means of, you know, um, you are not, you have no control. And I think this work kind of stimulates a type of the Epsteins and Khashoggis of this life. But if you would like to say something else,
Well, about that, I can't say a whole lot. I was only at the Office of Naval Intelligence. It was called the Naval Intelligence Command at that time. I was only there for a couple years, but it was an active couple years. There's no doubt about that. But
Okay.
just to say, none of what I'm doing now has any connection to that. I can't comment on your
Right.
tenure or anything like that. But none of what I'm promoting here has any connections into that world. And you got to be fair, while there are malicious actors that are involved in intelligence circles, the majority of the individuals are in
Well
the
intentioned.
intelligence
I met.
services. Yeah, they act under faith, what
I
I define
totally
as
agree
faith.
with you. I
Yeah,
believe it's like people in the
yeah,
army. They believe they are fighting for freedom and they are liberating a country. And I
yeah. These
agree
are
with
good
you.
people, and yeah, I
Yeah,
don't I don't want to
definitely,
besmirch them.
definitely.
And I've had people point the finger at me and say, "You're a liar because you were in intelligence." Well, I automatically don't trust a person like that because they're already in a bucket of agency. They can't be trusted. They don't really know what they're talking about, yet they make pronouncements. So I'm very wary of people who make that. There are good and bad players and actors, mixed
Right,
in everything.
absolutely. And in practical terms, I mean, it's better for us if people with the strong moral conduct and moral values are actually in this type of service than if we
Yeah,
let them, fester with the less upright type of citizen. So it's kind of like paradoxical, but yeah,
yeah,
I understand they exist. Um,
yeah.
but so one day, if you want, I would like to read more of your work and to interview you further. Um, if you have so considering your sorry your specialty in so many areas, you're like a polymath. Francis Bacon with Da Vinci, and so what do you think was Jeffrey Epstein? Who was he working for? And
Well, I will say this, that early on when you're in intelligence, they give you what is called the hook. You do something that you can't own up to, whether it's illegal or immoral or something. They ask
right,
you to do something
mice.
that will put you under risk of incarceration or exposure.
Yeah.
And that once you do that thing, and they asked me to do that type of thing, and I refused. Once you do that thing, they have you for life, and that
Right.
plays out then more, in areas more than just inside intelligence. The contrast is, when we talk about grace and living spiritually, the ethic there is anathema to that entire thing. The capture of a dark empire is to hold each of the members in that hierarchy under threat, either threat of loss of the income or the addiction that they're under, or threat of exposure of their
Mm-hmm.
evil deeds. Whatever the
Mm-hmm.
threat is, it enslaves them. The beauty of grace is you're no longer under that type of dark umbrella, and I can see it in individuals who are captured under that versus individuals that are acting already under the grace that I suspect is ready to descend on the earth.
Wow, that sounds very Christian of you. For someone who is not religious, even like the terminology, the beauty of
There's some
grace.
commonalities. Yeah, spiritual,
Right.
but not necessarily a Christian religion. It's got to be well grounded in epistemology, history, all the synthesis of subjects that systems engineers
But
undertake.
right, but regardless of whether religion exists, and I believe religion
Yeah,
is a man-made attempt
yeah.
to explain the ineffable, but you seem to believe in a higher uh, being and a creator, apparently.
A higher agency, and I don't know how to define it, so it's hard to call it a belief. I leave it as a placeholder that's open, and
Okay.
apparently that's okay. And we just lost an actor, and what is it, Vanderbeek,
Yeah.
and he said that the revelation to him and his meditations was that he's worthy of being loved, and even if it's not the word God, even if you open it to a placeholder, they were okay with that.
Yeah, I
He's
saw
still
that
worthy of being
video. I
loved.
found it so moving and
It
so
was very
generous of
moving.
him to
Yes,
say something
yes.
at that moment of
Well,
uh,
Well
departure.
stated. Yeah.
Yeah,
At that moment of departure. Absolutely.
yeah. It was really beautiful. And you believe that we are all worthy of love, of
Yes,
being loved.
absolutely. So I think that grace, you know, what I've learned in business and multiple businesses in competitive scenarios, as soon as you start doing well, as soon as you outperform what your peers expected of you or wanted to impose on you, they get very angry, and that's the unfortunate backside. That as you make accomplishments, as you gain clients, as you get awards, all these things, your peers who used to be your best friends, they get angry and
Hmm.
they just they dump your friendship, and you are now the enemy unless they're very mature. But unfortunately, most people aren't. So,
Exactly.
and if you see that, if you see the animosity on the part of the dark entities that rule this earth or inhabit and think they rule this earth, you know, it's very much akin to that sibling animosity.
So, are you, I mean, are you attributing evil to something external to the human nature, like a foreign force, rather than our own ability to be good or bad?
Not solely, but I always address in systems terms a thing called the critical path. You address one question at a time. A way to deceive people is to bring in question number five when you don't need to answer question number five just yet. So the first question is this current darkness. That's a popular title. We need to address that first. Then there'll be other challenges that humans will be humans regardless of what agency is oppressing them. So we have to learn in that regard as well. But we have to address this first, or we'll never progress any further. We'll become another set of bones in the earth for somebody to dig up, 200,000 years from now and go, hey, wow, there was this culture here at one time. We'll just become, a whisper and a memory unless we cross this spiritual threshold.
I see. So, are you one of those people who believe that there is a satanic elite or Satanists? I don't know what they are called. Do you
Oh,
subscribe to that?
they live by a lockstep hierarchy, and they report, and they have incentives, they have punishments, and it's the antithesis of grace, if you will. So
Ah,
yes, that's as close as I get to the term belief. And after running
hmm.
into the several of the entities over my life in various situations, scenarios, yeah, I've got a firm belief that they exist here, but they are terrified, and they're terrified for good reason.
So all those news or reports of people participating in some kind of like obscure cults with weird rituals and rituals that involve offerings of children, for example, and even like that supposed theater they made at CERN. By the way, I wrote an article for Rolling Stone about CERN, the laboratory in Switzerland. And
Excellent. Wow.
yeah, well, I'm sure you wouldn't. um, oh my God, it was already difficult for me to understand a double-slit experiment, but but I did write, and I was the last journalist to actually be allowed in before the major magnets were turned on. Apparently, they have more magnetic power than even our Earth gravity or something like that. I don't. It was an Indian scientist who controlled the part of the magnets for the particles to actually make a curve, right? But
Gotcha.
and then I saw this video of this supposed ritual to Moloch or something at CERN. Have you seen it?
I have seen similar videos. I don't know if I saw that, that particular rendition, but I go by the suspicion that the younger and more innocent the victim, the richer the loosh that is derived from the suffering of that victim. So when you
Sorry,
want to
sorry, I do
unleash
not. Can you repeat it, please? Richard, I don't
the
know what you're talking.
on the part on the part of these entities, when they seek sustenance off of humans, the
Mm.
more innocent and unblemished the human, the more rich the energy is, the more powerful the energy is, at least to their taste and their perception. If you, whether it's an unblemished sacrifice or a child or a young innocent person who's suffering, they gain a lot of power off of that. Young women in the U.S. are a particular target because of the nature of the situation in life in which they're in, and they derive enormous power and energy from say 9 to 14-year-old women in the U.S. Most ghost hunters realize that there's a kinetic that comes from young females in a household that seems to stimulate these entities, and they enjoy
Oh,
it.
wow.
That's their sustenance, if you will.
Oh, so you believe that? Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
I think
find
the
it so
evidence.
absurd that, I mean,
I
I
think
don't,
the It's not a belief. I think the evidence clearly shows it. Just because science refuses to look at it doesn't mean it's
right,
not real.
right.
I'm a
Well,
critic of
human
science.
sacrifice is historically recorded. I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
it is. Yeah.
well,
How far that extends, I don't know.
Jesus apparently, one of the things that he objected to, as far as the scriptures say, was the sacrifice of even animals to God, remember?
Hmm. That is correct.
So, yeah, there may be a lot of darkness that we are not aware of. And
Yeah.
it's sometimes I feel that all this Epstein release, this dump, is has also the purpose to either anesthetize us or make us so overwhelmed under the weight of so much darkness that I believe there must be, I mean, a objective also achieved with that. And if Epstein is really alive, as
So
as it becomes plausible, um, if he's really alive, I would imagine that he is also behind the release and a type of like QAnon experiment to see how that affects the population and the general mood and zeitgeist.
Yeah, yes. Zeitgeist is a good word there. Yeah, counterintelligence uses a variety of means of deception and layered deception to affect its goals. So the intelligence community gets tied in whether they know it or not, and regardless of the ethical nature of the participants in the community, they get tied into these dark powers as well. So they're not aware of when they're part of the deception or an interleaved deception or a counter
Right.
deception. So we never know. I term myself as a ponerologist, a studier of evil. Just because something looks
Ah, right.
wrong, just because it looks wrong doesn't mean it's dark. Darkness has certain habits that it cannot surrender. So the onus is on the ponerologist to become a student of those habits. Once you begin to see those habits, the world polarizes a little bit different than good and evil per se, but you
Mm.
begin to spot what I call the one-trick pony. They don't have free will, so they can only operate within certain bounds, and they tend to repeat the same patterns over and over and over, which will ultimately be their downfall.
So they are evil and not too bright, not too intelligent.
In some regards, not too intelligent, maybe not skilled in that. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. If you don't have free will, you don't have every resource at your avail to fight against someone who does have free will. It's somewhat
Right.
akin to it's somewhat akin to the American Revolution. If you can go take any formation and get behind any object and flank and move about as you see fit on the battlefield, and your enemy has to stand in a straight line and put the cannons over here, the horses over here, and stand in formation here, that enemy's going to lose because they don't have the will, the latitude in their decision making to win.
You are, of course, aware that when you say that they don't have free will, you also are, in a way, exempting them from blame, from guilt.
That's Yeah, that's true. It depends on when the offending act occurred, but I don't have the answer to that. So, but that is absolutely true. Yeah.
Oh wow. My God, you should be their lawyer. I'm joking. Hi, Roger, you are fascinating, really. My God, I could have 1,000 beers with you. Thank you. Thank you so much for this talk. I have a dinner, but I could stay here for as long as your tolerance would allow.
These are fun topics. Yeah.
I'm gonna take the time, if I may say so. I'm gonna read your stuff, but
Okay.
if you could lower it down a notch on the hermetic type of like nomenclature and terminology. My God, I mean, it's sometimes I go like, who is he writing for? I mean, the guy has to at least
That is
have
true.
his IQ, so and knowledge. I mean, I don't mean to say that you should dumb down, but there are so many fascinating things that you write that become almost like ungraspable for most of us.
Yeah.
And
I get that
if you could
every
throw
once
it
in a
on
while.
Grok
Yeah.
and say simplify it,
Yeah.
I would do it.
That I will do. In fact, Grok and ChatGPT help enormously in that regard. When I wrote the summary of ECDO theory, I said to Grok and ChatGPT together, I
Uh,
said, let's revise this wording so that it reaches an 80th percentile audience, not on intelligence, but on just their familiarity with all these basic
yeah,
terms.
yeah, not
And that's what
intelligence.
it
You're
did.
right. It's
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yes,
because
not intelligence. Yeah.
right, good for you and good for us as well to be privy of your to your knowledge and this ability to link, as Guito said,
The
so many topics from so many
the grand
fields and kind
the
of
grand
make sense.
unified
Yeah, yeah.
the grand unified conspiracy theory. That's what some
Right,
people have
right.
called it.
And well, I
Absolutely.
have to say, you give it an amazing veneer of highbrowness. Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you so much, Roger, and I
Thank
hope
you,
to talk
Paula.
to you soon some other time. Really,
Okay, I'll be
thank
open
you.
to that. Enjoyed it thoroughly.
Amazing. Thank you. All the best to you, and have a nice weekend. And feel free to reach out whenever you need or want to.
I will, Paula. Thank you
Okay.
for having me
Thank
on.
you. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.